Well, thanks very much, Will. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I have a couple of comments off the top, and then, of course, as always, I'm happy to open it up for questions. So, first of all, like I'm assuming most, if not all of you, I had the chance to read the media report last evening regarding the young 13-year-old girl in Brampton who lost her life to COVID-19, Emily Viegas. And I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge her tragic passing and to offer my sincere condolences and those of the Ontario Liberal Party to her family. I can't begin to understand what kind of anguish her mother and father are going through as they struggle with the loss of their daughter, a daughter who is the same age, was the same age as my oldest daughter. It is just terribly, terribly heartbreaking to consider that it's come to this for so many. And of course, this has been 13 or 14 months of incredible sacrifice, suffering, and tragedy for far too many Ontarians. And so it is so critically important that each and every one of us, whether we work inside government, whether we are political leaders or we're just everyday Ontarians, do what needs to be done in order to stay at home, to get vaccinated, to listen to the very best public health advice so that we can get through to the other side of this incredibly horrifying ordeal that we have all been through. You will all know that for now 410 days, I have been calling on Doug Ford to deliver a meaningful and effective paid sick leave program here in the province of Ontario. You will also know that a few days ago, about 4 days ago, Doug Ford confirmed to all of us that in fact he would be bringing in some kind of provincial program. Since we heard that announcement from Doug Ford, about 16,228 Ontarians have tested positive for COVID. About 122 have tragically passed away. We know that the numbers of Ontarians who find themselves in ICUs struggling with COVID right now is at, again, a horrifyingly high number, too high. And we've not heard anything since last Thursday from Doug Ford or his government about their paid sick leave program. I don't understand how this is possible. I don't understand how over the weekend we saw a series of tweets. We heard about letters going to the Prime Minister. There was a degree of, if I can put it, flippancy in the tweets from the Premier about issues that are a priority for him, but yet nothing on his paid sick leave program. I don't know where Doug Ford is. I mean, obviously we know that he is isolating, but when it comes to paid sick leave, I don't know where he is. I would have thought after the announcement on Thursday that Friday morning, we would have heard something from the Premier about his plan. We didn't. I would have thought then Saturday or Sunday or even today. But when you look at the list of the media advisories that are going out today from all parties, there is nothing that I've seen so far to suggest that we'll hear an update from Doug Ford today about paid sick leave. I don't get it. There will be a vote today in the legislature on a private member's bill introduced by Ontario Liberal MPP Michael Coteau that would, if passed, deliver 10 paid sick days to workers right across Ontario. Given that we've heard nothing from Doug Ford since last Thursday, given that it's been 410 days since I first asked for paid sick leave in this province, I am urging Doug Ford and his team and his government to pass Michael Coteau's private member's bill today when given the opportunity, so that essential workers in communities like Brampton, for example, which has, if not the highest, one of the highest positivity rates in the country, and workers not only in Brampton, but right across Ontario actually have the support that they need, that every scientist, including Doug Ford's own science table, have called for, that mayors, opposition politicians, every single opposition leader has called for, that public health leaders have called for. It is time to do the right thing. There is no excuse left. There is no time left. So Doug Ford, if you're listening, I need you to come out of hiding. I need you to actually show up and do the right thing. Tell us today that you will support Michael Coteau's private members bill and that we will get on with delivering paid sick leave for essential workers in every corner of Ontario as a positive and meaningful step to defeating COVID-19 once and for all and getting back to normal. Thank you. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay, just a reminder to please either raise your hand using the Zoom function or write to the chat if you have a question. Okay, there are no questions on the line. Thank you. Oh, I see Snake Ogle has just raised your hand.
Yeah.
Snake Ogle from QP Briefing.
Hi, good morning. Sorry, I
Good
was a
morning.
bit slow to the chat there. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a bit further about Emily Viegas. Um, I mean, obviously, it's been tragic to hear about any death related to COVID-19, but here we have a 13-year-old. You know, and her story, just reading that was quite heartbreaking. I'm sure to anyone who was reading that Globe and Mail article. Do you think that at this point this marks a bit of a turning point in the third wave? Do you think that this is going to you know, push the action that experts have been calling for weeks now?
I obviously the report it's incredibly heartbreaking. When I read it last night, I could barely bring myself to finish the entire story. As I said earlier, my older daughter, is 13 years of age. I just can't imagine what it must have been like for Emily to go through getting sick and obviously losing, going through the anguish of that. For her mom and dad, it's beyond devastating to consider. I can't believe it's taken this long, generally speaking, for Doug Ford and his government to move and to listen to the scientists, and they haven't moved yet. So it should never have come to this. And I don't want to politicize at all this tragedy that this young girl, this woman, has lost her life over COVID. But I don't know what else it's going to take for Doug Ford to wake up and realize what his job is in this moment. This is not about politics. This is not about polling. This is not about anything else at all. This is listening to the scientists, delivering paid sick leave. At this point, delivering it urgently, delivering it whatever the cost. So people like Emily's dad, if they get sick, they're not feeling well, if they have to get vaccinated, if they have to get tested, they don't have to worry about not being able to pay for their rent or pay for their groceries or support their family. I mean, imagine putting an individual in a province as rich as ours into the context or into the situation where they have to make this choice because they don't feel that they have any other option. It should never have come to this. This is not about politics. I don't, I can't imagine the anguish they're all going through. But we need leadership in this moment, leadership that's been missing for far too long in this regard. And so, Doug Ford, again, you're listening. You're a father. You need to do the right thing. You need to step up and deliver paid sick leave today.
Thank you. And just to follow up, I mean, we saw a lot of discussion about this on social media over the weekend or since yesterday. And as you mentioned kind of off the top, there was a letter that was sent from several PC MPPs to the federal government. There was one PC MPP who was talking about new variants being more transmissible amongst younger people, and that's kind of why they're calling for these border restrictions, while other people obviously pushing for paid sick leave and more vaccines to hotspots. And some of this was tied to what we heard about Emily. Do you think that this, in your view, I'm not sure if you saw those discussions, but do you think this was politicized or is being politicized? And do you think that's appropriate in this context? I mean, or is the bottom line really that, action needs to be taken to combat the third wave at this point? Just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of some of those discussions that were happening on social media.
No, listen, I appreciate that. I look at it from the perspective of, as I said in my comments, I don't know how Doug Ford's MPPs, Doug Ford himself through his social media accounts, I don't understand how they all found time since last Thursday to fire off letters about border restrictions, to fire off tweets or to send off tweets, again, very focused on that issue. But yet they didn't have the time or the capacity or maybe the interest in delivering on paid sick leave. I want to be really clear about this. We're in the midst of this third wave of this ordeal, this crisis that we need to crush, and we need to get to the other side. So here's the thing about real leadership. We need to do it all, and we need to do it all right now. So yeah, more border restrictions and travel restrictions, absolutely. Let's get that done. But it should never be either or. It's got to be all of it. You listen to the scientists, it's got to be all of it. So it's got to be paid sick leave, which is way overdue. It's even overdue from last Thursday when Doug Ford told all of us he'd seen the light and he was going to do it. It's overdue from last Thursday. It's overdue from 410 days ago when I wrote my first letter to him on paid sick leave. So I don't understand what they're thinking. I don't know who they're listening to. This is Doug Ford and his team. I don't know what political advice they're getting, but they should be ignoring all of that. They should be listening to the scientists, to their own science advisory table, and delivering along with the federal government on all of it. So this is not about levels of government. This is not about pointing fingers of blame. This is not about partisanship. This is about getting through the crisis. And to be 13 or 14 months into this and to watch this going back and forth over this critical weekend is just, it's just brutally disappointing. And I don't think I'm alone in saying that. I think the people of Ontario will judge very harshly political leaders who in this moment decide to play or press or play for political advantage or engage in tactical maneuvering because they're looking to deflect and delay and blame and dither. You listen to the numbers that I presented, 122 Ontarians who've lost their lives to COVID since last Thursday, over 16,000 people who tested positive. I mean, it could not be any more crystal clear than this. It is life and death. Get the politics the hell out of this and get on with leading. That's what Doug Ford needs to do.
Okay, there are no other questions on the line. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.